Hello all my Kenvians, Papa Ken here, bringing you episode 7 of Discovering Once Upon a Time. Today the episode I'm going to be reacting to and reviewing, as always. I don't know why I state that. Do I state that every time? I don't know. ADD. Anyway, the episode today is going to be The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. And I can't remember my exact words from the previous video, but I mean, I can only assume that the hunter being mentioned is the huntsman that was supposed to have killed Snow White. So let's get right into it and find out if I'm right. I see a wolf in the background. Yes. Wait a minute.
Oh, hey, wait, what are you doing? If Graham thinks Brown doesn't work out being through this, come on. From David? No.
He's a good doggy. He's such a good doggy.
What do you want?
Aww. He is getting his memories back. Dang. I'm sorry, I'm a guy. I'm a typical guy.
The huntsman.
I think you know.
You're going to kill me.
You have good instincts.
And you have too much armor. It's not a trick. Please give it to her. Tell her I mean every word.
It's in gigantic letters. F you! I'm not gonna say it on video, obviously. And all of a sudden, Emma's just like, oh crap, it is real. It actually is real. Everything here is real. A whole lot of hearts in this show. Surprisingly clean and dry.
Why is everyone running away from you?
Oh, dang.
And if you ever disobey me, if you ever try to run away, all I have to do is scream.
Oh no. Oh, his heart is in there.
Guards!
Oh, she's gonna kill him. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh no, this is gonna be even worse. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, shit. No. That's how they end the episode! Oh my god, okay. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. Okay. That's how they end the episode. Are you are you kidding me? Oh. It answered my question. I wish it hadn't. Oh, good God. Okay. All right. So I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say at this point. Okay. Gonna take a quick break. Actually going to stop the video right now to gather my thoughts, write down all my notes, and I shall return for the actual review. I will see you all, what, very shortly, because it'll be right after the cut. Alright, back from my little break. Have all my thoughts together, and I'm still blown away by this episode. I mean, the other episodes have definitely elicited some emotions out of me, but I mean, even though we haven't really gotten to spend a lot of time with Graham / the Huntsman, especially compared to characters like Prince Charming, Snow White, Emma, and Henry, and Regina, of course. But I mean, he was there. He was a good person. He was a good. Oh my God. This episode just, like, if I wasn't already convinced that I liked this show before, this episode would have just had me in hook, line, and sinker, without a doubt. Without a single doubt. And honest to God, after I download the footage from this, I'm probably going to go ahead and record the next episode, because there's no way I can just leave it like that. There's no way that I can see that ending and not find out what happens next. Even though they'll probably fast forward to like a day after or something like that. But I'm rambling on. Anyway, as for the review of this episode, let's get into my favorite parts, and there are quite a few, some of which I might actually end up merging, I don't know yet. But my first favorite part of the episode is the fact that we finally did get that focus on Graham. Found out he's the Huntsman. The reason why we haven't had really any focus on him before is revealed, unfortunately. But I was glad to finally get more of an insight into Graham, to find out who he was, and to see him go through what he goes through, both in the Land Without Magic and the Land of Magic throughout this episode. It's just, it was just phenomenal. But my second favorite part of this episode was the fact that Emma's kiss brought back Graham's memories. And that actually does bring up a question, maybe even a theory a little bit later, which I'll touch on more later, but just the fact that it was Emma directly. She directly impacted Graham and caused... She didn't at first cause his memories to completely come back, but he got that flash. And that started unlocking, or rather undoing, the curse. Whatever lock it had on his mind. So I absolutely loved that part of it, and the way that it plays out throughout the end, up until the end of the episode. Excuse me. Moving on to my next favorite part of this episode was the fact that we get to see the evil queen and Snow after the king's death. Now, I'm trying... After I saw this, well, admittedly, when you saw me during the reaction, I thought that maybe they were at a point before Queenie went all homicidal on Snow White. But clearly not, obviously, but, you know, it was a nice thought at the time, I guess. But, after that scene, I was trying to think whether or not in some of the original versions of the fairy tale, whether Snow White's father, or rather the king, had been killed by the queen. It seems like that probably is the case. I don't entirely know, but then again, there's obviously something between Snow and the queen that keeps them from getting along or whatever, or has caused this rift. I don't know. I'm really interested to know, if at all, how closely the lore of what they did here with Snow White, the Queen, and the King matches with the classic story, not the Disney story, but like the classic story. Is it a Grimm tale, actually? I have no idea. But anyway, moving on from there, because we have a lot to cover. My next favorite part of the episode was just the reveal that Graham is in fact the huntsman. So my theory, or was it a question? I don't remember. But basically my thought that that's what it could mean was accurate. Because I do remember that when we saw the wolf, and then the next person we saw was Graham back in the first episode, I was thinking that maybe Graham was the big bad wolf. So it's like, you know, instead of turning into a werewolf, he just turns into a wolf. Kind of like, again, and I know I touched on this in the first video, but kind of like how it was with, in the comics, in the Fable comics, where the sheriff is the big bad wolf, or big bad, I think as they just call him. But obviously wrong there. And finding out the huntsman, well, you know, bringing me to my next favorite point is that we see that the wolf from episode 1 is the huntsman's companion. I can only assume that maybe the wolf, I think, may have been, it's like a vision of sorts. Even though Emma was able to see the wolf, I feel like it's some sort of vision, or at least a spirit of sorts, as opposed to an actual wolf, at least at this point. But back in the Land of Magic, was that wolf like part of the huntsman's pack, the pack that took him in and raised him? And even there, I'm trying to remember if there is a fairy tale surrounding that, because the only story that comes to mind, for me personally, of a boy being raised by the wolves is the Jungle Book. And I haven't read the original Jungle Book novel or anything like that, but the Disney version, the version where like Mowgli is raised by the wolves. So yeah, like the only other fairy tale I can think of is The Boy Who Cried Wolf, but that has nothing to do with, like, again, like the child being raised by wolves. So I just, like, all of that linking together, well, with Graham being gone, unfortunately, I guess maybe we won't get much more information on that, or maybe something will happen that, maybe the wolves return in some form. I don't know. It's, I have so many conflicting thoughts in my head right now, even though I have this stuff written down. But let's move on to my next favorite part of this episode, which was what I initially wrote down as some friction between Emma and Mary. And it wasn't really friction, but it was, what it ended up being was like a bit more of an evolution in their relationship. Again, I don't know if, even if after the curse is broken, if they'll ever be able to have really a mother-daughter relationship, especially since I think at this point technically Emma is older than her mom. Well, in a sense, as far as like what age she was back in the Land with Magic. But anyway, it's like I see, if not necessarily a mother-daughter relationship, but like they're sisters, basically, and I see more of that evolving. And whether or not it stays that way, I really enjoy seeing the way that the two characters interact with each other, and just the little banter. With, you know, Mary being, like, experiencing her first one-night stand, and just sort of the, you know, confrontation, the bit of friction there with, excuse me, with Emma. Yeah, I really did enjoy that. I mean, I think I've said that like 5 times already, but yes, that was great. Moving on from there, my next favorite part of this episode, and one that didn't get answered. Well, my first thought got answered, but my second didn't. My next favorite part is when we saw Mr. Gold in the woods. And, I mean, creepy as ever, without a doubt. Creepy as ever. He definitely always leaves an impression on you when he's in the area, whether he's Mr. Gold or the much more animated Rumpelstiltskin. Rumpy! But, my first thought was, like, did he kill the wolf? Which, thankfully, that was not revealed. I thought maybe, like, somehow he had managed to kill the wolf and had buried it. But that didn't even make much sense after a few seconds of thinking about it, because, like, that would have been a really short amount of time for Gold to kill the wolf and then bury it. So, but yeah, but then my second thought that came to mind was, what was he burying? Well, I guess, actually, that was a question, so that would be a question of several which I have for this episode. But what did he bury? Because gardening in the middle of the forest, unless he's growing weed, I don't think so. And somehow I feel like they probably won't do that in this show. It just seems out of place. I don't know, I could be wrong. But yeah, yeah. Anyway, moving on from there. Hey, Charlie. Moving on from there, my next favorite part, it's another one of those reasons. It's a favorite because of just, like, my shock factor, but the Queen has a collection of hearts. Really? And, well, I mean, obviously Regina still has it at the end, but I do remember, I think possibly even in the Disney version, that the huntsman wanted, or no, the huntsman was supposed to kill Snow White, take her heart, and bring it back to the Queen. Actually, that probably wasn't the Disney version, but it was from a version that I remember. But just knowing that she wanted to add it to her collection of hearts. Just the idea of a collection of hearts in general just kind of blows my mind, and I don't completely get the point of it, but obviously some of the magic has to do with using hearts, and I guess those can come in handy at certain points. Kind of like what she does at the end, which I'll touch on in a little bit. But, okay, moving on from the collection. Seeing the interactions of Graham and Mary along with the huntsman and Snow White. Just the parallels, not necessarily parallels, but just seeing those scenes sort of side by side, and then seeing the rest of it when Graham goes to visit Henry, it really gave me hope that we would have been able to see more of a friendship blossom between those two. Especially, you know, once, if the curse gets broken, I'm sure it will, but once the curse gets broken, I mean, obviously that was the last time the huntsman ever saw Snow White in the Land with Magic. Yeah, it would have been great to be able to see them develop more of a friendship beyond just the fake one that the curse established. But moving on from there, my next favorite part of this episode, I'm actually going to skip that part because it has to do with the end, but the letter from Snow White. And finding out, well, not only finding out the words, but then seeing the Queen's reaction to what was said, which clearly had didn't have the intended impact, or maybe it did, I don't know. Snow White could be, you know, kind of cold-blooded in a very passive-aggressive way. But yeah, just the way she reacted, which brings me to my next favorite part of the episode, was the mention of the betrayal. Now, it's been mentioned that Snow White is responsible for taking away the Queen's love, or I don't know exactly what it is at this point. It's like it's either her capability to love someone she loved, something along those lines. I don't know. But the betrayal is that Snow couldn't keep the Queen's secret. All of this being, you know, more questions coming up. Moving on. My next favorite part of the episode was after Regina finds Emma and Graham at the mausoleum. Is it a mausoleum? Pretty sure it is. Yeah. But Graham basically, he stands up to Regina in a similar way that Jiminy did, or Archie, I guess is more accurate until he gets his memories back. But the fact that he stands up and rejects Regina, like in that sense, he broke free of the curse she had over him in a sense, temporarily, and sort of began the final process of finally being able to get all of his memories back. Unknowingly, obviously, but yeah, just that was like that scene of him standing up to her, I just thought was awesome. Which brings me to my next favorite part of the episode, and this one, I am such a guy, I apologize, but Emma versus Regina, as short-lived as it was, seeing them go at each other like that was just phenomenal. And again, I know, I'm a guy, I'm gross, but I mean, that was a really cool scene, and I know that each character is like the way they're both played. It's clear they want to just destroy each other most of the time. Emma maybe not so much most of the time, except for when Regina really annoys her. But Regina definitely just wants to eliminate Emma pretty much at all costs, so I don't... Actually... That made me think of another question. Hopefully I'll remember it in a little bit, but we'll move on from there so that I can hopefully remember that. My next favorite part of this episode was the reveal that there is, in fact, a trap door. There was a trap door like Graham thought, and the wolf was trying to lead him to his heart. That the heartbeat that they were able to feel was false, or it was like a magic version of his heart. I don't know, that part's kind of unclear because he was still alive in the land of magic, so maybe it was like a curse of sorts over his heart. I don't know, I really don't know. But that brings us to, and I'm not going to call this a favorite part of the episode, but easily the most heartbreaking moment of the show so far, in my opinion, was Emma feels like we know that she had, you know, some sort of feelings for him. It's like, even if it's just a crush, but she realizes that she really likes him. She seemingly, from her body language, seems to trust him and is falling in love. And they kiss, and he gets all of his memories back. Bless you, Charlie. He gets all of his memories back. And he says, "Thank you. Bless you again, Charlie." And then he's gone. Regina has taken the heart, crushed it into dust, and Graham is gone. And again, I find it so strange that, you know, getting so emotional over a character when up until now we didn't have a super close connection with him. We knew he was a good guy, misguided, possibly, but he was a good guy. But then we finally learn who he is, and he's gone. And that's just so friggin' tragic. I had to censor myself. But yeah, and there were a lot of really good moments in this episode, without a doubt. I don't know. There's some... On one hand, I was about to say, like, the question I thought of earlier might be an annoyance, but I don't think it is. So really, in the end, I think, honestly, for this episode... Oh, no, wait a second. I do have an annoyance. I just have one. Just one. And it is the most minor thing possible. But in the Queen's collection of hearts, she takes what the huntsman says is Snow White's heart over to it. But it doesn't open. So, does it open only if a certain heart is near it? Or is the Queen just able to open it whenever she wants? Because if that's the case, why wouldn't it have opened when she, through magic, commands it to open so she can put the heart in? That's the only annoyance I have with this episode, is just that didn't really make any sense, just the whole logic behind it. Now clearly what's intended is, you know, it will open up when Snow White's heart is near. But again, seemingly the Queen is the one controlling this collection and its doors, so why wouldn't a door have opened? Or maybe it's that she, like, put a safeguard there so that if it wasn't really Snow White's heart, that it wouldn't open and she would know she had been betrayed. But if that was the case, it would have been nice if we had some sort of idea about that. Like, she had warned the huntsman, like, if you don't bring me back her heart, I'll know. Or if you bring me back someone else's heart, I'll know. Just something like that. Just the smallest little thing would have helped that make sense, but instead it just seems inconsistent. But again, that is literally the only annoyance I have in this episode. Otherwise, it's really good. It is so good. But I feel really weird saying that after a character I like died. But anyway. So yes, before I move on, if you have any of your own favorite parts of this episode that I didn't mention, or any annoyances that you felt with the episode, other than the graphics, because yeah, I'm not going to be throwing that in anymore unless it's just something really egregious. But you know, again, any favorites, any annoyances you have with this episode, please do let me know in the comments down below. I rhymed. Anyway, okay, that brings us to, I think my ADHD is kicking in a little bit. That brings us to my quotes of the episode. And it was just... I remember there being quite a few really good quotes from this episode. Some really good lines. So I have no doubt that some of you will come up with some that I don't mention here. But the two I do have just really hit a note with me throughout this episode. The first, surprisingly enough, came from Mr. Gold. And it was, I think it was more the foreboding tone of the entire situation that made this line stand out to me as much as it did. But it's when well, the only time we see Mr. Gold, when he sees Graham in the woods. And Graham tells him about, you know, seeing a wolf in his dream, and then he really saw the wolf. And Mr. Gold says, dreams are memories. Memories of another life. And I mean, I haven't had any doubt in my mind. Like, I was sure that Rumpy / Mr. Gold knew or remembered things before it dawned on me that Regina did. But yeah, just like that line right there was just so foreboding coming from him. It was just so ominous that even though I knew that it was not a dream, that it was actual memories from his previous life in the land of magic, that it had this darkness to it, that statement. But anyway, moving on to my second quote of the episode, and it's during the scene when Graham confronts Regina and rejects her. Regina thinks that Graham is leaving her for Emma, but Graham says, "I'm leaving you for me." And that line right there could probably dedicate an entire episode to deconstructing it and thinking over it, and just the kind of lesson, or not even a lesson, but the kind of mindset so many people could have, or I wish they would have, that could be able to say something like that. People that are in toxic relationships, people that are just in bad relationships. That line right there just speaks volumes. So, yeah, I really, really, really liked both of those quotes. But okay, again, have any of your own quotes, please do feel free to leave them in the comments, because I definitely want to know what else, or rather what other lines you liked here. Moving on from there, though, as far as a track of the episode goes, it had to be that last track that was playing at the end of the episode. I mean, it just matched the tone perfectly, which was friggin' depressing. But again, it was perfect for what was going on, so I have to give it props. It was really good. It was a really good track, whatever its title may be. But okay, moving on from there, I do have some questions. Or rather, okay, yes, I do have two questions. One that I did write down, and is actually no longer a question, because I found out what happened. But the question was, how is Graham alive if his heart was ripped out? Found that out at the end, obviously. Although that does connect to my second question, which kind of ties into my annoyance. But throughout any of the other episodes, when they talk about taking out a heart, like, they clearly mean a literal heart. First, Regina sacrifices, or I'm sorry, the Queen sacrifices her favorite steed's heart. Very clearly a heart. And then she kills her father and has his heart. Again, very clearly a heart. But then when she reaches in and takes out the huntsman's heart, not only one, are there no holes in his clothing, but he's still alive. So, my question is that his literal heart, just like removed through magic? Or is it a symbol of a curse upon his heart? I can't really think of a better way to put that, and I tried, believe me. But yeah, was that his literal heart, or again, was it a sort of representation, a symbol, almost like a voodoo doll, Basically, it's like, you know, if that's destroyed, his real heart is destroyed. It's magic, so I'm sure that's probably the actual explanation. Just could probably be explained a little bit better than what I rambled. But yeah, that's my first one. My second question for this episode is very simply, what was the secret that Snow couldn't keep? I'm sure they're probably going to reveal it at some point, especially whenever we get another episode that focuses on Regina, or for all I know, focuses on Regina and Snow and David? I think that's his name, but Prince Charming / James. But anyway, yeah, what was the secret? And why is it such this huge betrayal? And obviously when we find out what the secret is, it'll probably be something insane that makes it pretty clear why it was a betrayal. But I'll just have to wait and find out, I suppose. But alright, moving on from my questions, as for my theory, yeah, not theories, but theory for this episode, I was trying to think of, or trying to put the pieces together between what happened with Graham and Emma and what Emma might need to do as far as breaking the curse for everyone. So, since she was able to break it with Graham by kissing him, I mean, physical contact, obviously, she was able to break the curse for him. She was able to unlock his memories, or again, release him from the curse. So my theory is that Emma will need to physically touch / break / hold in some form something that will affect the entire town. I have no idea what it's going to be. It could be some sort of magic talisman. It could be the source of the curse. Like maybe that bonfire still exists somewhere there. But Emma is going to have to physically affect that thing that will, in effect, affect everyone in the town and release them of the curse. Now, that's just my theory, again, based off of what I saw here. Could be way off. Those of you that have already seen the episodes ahead know whether or not I'm way off. So, you know, obviously, no spoilers, otherwise naughty naughty. But, yeah. It's that's my theory for now. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to download this video onto the computer because my memory card's almost empty. And I'm going to watch the next episode because there's no way I'm just going to wait for the next one after the way that last episode ended. And the next episode coming up is Desperate Souls. And what a name for an episode that comes right after what just happened here. But okay, I'll just wrap it up there. Until next time, everyone, I am Papa Kenn. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Discovering Once Upon a Time. And I will see you all next time for, once again, Desperate Souls. Until then, later.